Hello, welcome to the E09 show. I'm your host, John Malone. Now, I'm not sure if regulars are going to come, but if they do, I will let you know. But for now, on with our guest, returning from season 2, he is from New York City. He's a singer and songwriter. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you JL.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to our chat.
So am I. So, how's life?
Life is grand, and I mean like super grand, because the other option is really not fun, from what I understand. So, whatever might not be perfect during the course of my life, I'd say, you know what? I'm happy.
That's nice. And have you been up too much since the last time we talked?
Yes, yes. So lots of music stuff, as you can imagine, right? Lots of writing, promoting, listening to great music, and of course, life as we know it. Just the regular life in New York City. That things have been reopening. Things are back to somewhat of a normal, status, though the monkeypox is slowing things down here and there a little bit. Not really like COVID, of course, but so just having a nice summer. It's been hot, of course, but it's always hot in August and July in New York City. So we're lucky. We have air conditioning, so we're good.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it reminds me that one time there was not one but two heat waves. I was on holiday for 2 months in Brazil, and when I got back, I was caught in the middle of the second heat wave. And
Mm.
when the temperatures of that heat wave came, I was like, "Huh, just like back in Brazil, you know." So I was completely complacent with it. I was so used to that kind of temperature for the last 2 months, so I didn't bother with the heat wave
it,
whatsoever.
it was sort of an extended, vacation for you, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is something that I wasn't so used to when I first came to New York City, because I was living in the Alps, in France slash Switzerland. So great winters, lots of snow, and the summers were not that hot. I mean, occasionally there'll be a hot day, but now things have changed, of course. But certainly, what happened is, in New York City, ever since I've been here, there's always been air conditioning, pretty much anywhere you go. Whereas, in the Alps, certainly in my hometown, things haven't caught up. I was there one year, and it was like impossible to find a fan, let alone an air conditioner. So, in some places, people are not necessarily, equipped or ready to, adapt to the change, or feel comfortable with changing the way they used to live. So it's not always a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Oh yes, absolutely. So have you so have you been other concerts or live shows?
Well, no live shows just yet. Starting to prepare for that, because it takes a while to get things going, and bring back the band together and all that. But working on it, and working on new music, so that preparing, hopefully a release for the beginning of next year, and getting to meet with people again, and hanging out, and exchanging some ideas, and jamming, if you will, and see if we can make it sound good live again. But I don't have any fixed dates just yet, but that's going to come up, pretty soon, I'm sure. But what's important is that people can get back together a lot more than they were able to do for the past couple of years.
Okay, interesting. So what is something you have learned this week?
This particular week, well, I actually happened to be watching Outlander, this TV series, or rewatching it, right? And there are like some really interesting historical tidbits in there. And the one that, or certainly other than historical, there's some medical stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with the show, but the lead lady, Claire, is a surgeon at some point. She starts as a nurse, an army nurse, and apparently, the human body or humans can last 3 minutes without air, 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, without water, and 3 weeks without food. So that's my lesson for the week.
All right.
Yeah, I they didn't say anything about music, so I don't know if it's part of the rule of three, right? Can a human being last? How long can a human being last without music? And I'm thinking any kind of music, right? Let's assume for a moment you're on a deserted island without any kind of equipment. Are you going to start like humming tunes to yourself after, I don't know, 3 minutes, 3 days, 3 weeks? Or are you gonna like find a stick and start banging on, some piece of wood that's next to it, or anything that you can get noise out of it? I would love to know if there are answers to that question. How long does it take a human being to, you know, before it has, or he or she has to make noise slash music in his or her life, given certain circumstances?
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good question.
Yeah, I certainly don't spend, I'd say certainly never ever more than a few hours, other than when I'm asleep, listening to some music, right? And if even if it's not just, you know, browsing through new music out there, listening to what great artists are doing, it's on TV, right? So if I'm watching TV, there's always music. So there's always music somewhere around me. But yeah, if I were to be deprived of any kind of stereo system, my smartphone, whatever, technology is available to me right now, how long would I last? And what would be the effect?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what kind of music do you often listen to?
Well, I really try to expand my horizon, horizons perhaps, so I will just turn on my computer, go to YouTube a lot, and check out all sorts of things that come up as suggested. Or same thing with Spotify, right? They'll send me an email and they'll say, hey, we put something for you, and there's always music or bands that I've never heard of, right? So I'll check that. But I also try to go into more specific local folklore music, and listen to very country specific, um, or area of the planet where I can hear some stuff like, especially when I watch a TV show that has music in it that's different, like throat singing from the Tibet. So it's really, nothing very specific that I start with, but I love how it can, go places to places to places, and throughout time. Whether it's back to the Middle Ages, or things that are recorded or available with instruments that are no longer being used that much.
Oh, okay, nice. And making his graduate return for so long, Risk 11 just joined the chat. How's it going, Risk?
Not bad, Jamie. Well, it's not been that long. We did do that season final.
Yeah, but this is the first time in a long time you've appeared along with another guest.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
All right, so Risk, now that you're here, is anything you want to ask Jay? In anything in particular?
So I'm not sure if you guys have covered this already, but like, what is there any specific genre you cover when you're making music?
I certainly, as a guitar player, and that's a great question. I am. It's always next to me, right? whether I'm, in my bedroom or living room, my guitar is always next to me. So everything I write is guitar driven. And what I find is that, I like to do things differently than I would normally do them, if you will, because I've got my go to rhythm things or ways to play the guitar. So I try to challenge myself to do things differently with the guitar. Instead of, let's say, just strum the guitar and with a pick, I'll can do some finger picking that's interesting. So I'll try to explore, ways to play the guitar that are different, at least to me. That I don't hear that often on other recordings. But as far as genre specific, I'm open to things. I'll listen to a great AC/DC song, and see if that inspires anything, and then move on to a piece of classical music and do the same thing. But it's mostly, hey, how can I get something different out of my guitar so I don't end up with sort of the same patterns, if you will, with all of the songs that I write.
Okay, nice. Now, would you rather be teleported permanently 500 years into the past or 500 years into the future?
Ha, that is an amazing question. So, 500 years into the past, that would put us what, like 1522? I don't know what to do with a sword. I don't know how to use a bow and arrow. I am going to vote for the future, though the future may not be that welcoming. But yeah, I'm way, way more curious as to what is going to be around in 500 years from now. Absolutely. The future for me.
All right, nice. Who was the last person you talked to?
The very last person I talked to was when I went to the supermarket a few hours ago, and couldn't find my way to a box of pancake mix, which is a staple of my diet. So for some wild reason, and it's not like a large supermarket, right? But I was kind of like, where is the pancake mix? So this very helpful gentleman there, store, looking like he was working there, but sometimes that may not be the case. So he was able to point me to aisle 7, where that the few pancake boxes that resided there at the time. So that did the trick, and that was the extent of our conversation.
Right, nice.
Yeah, very friendly. Masked. Both of us were wearing a mask, and that was it. On occasion when I'm there, I get to talk to the sushi bar owner slash preparer of sushi. Very, very, short conversations. But yeah, today I was lost. So
Yeah.
Any more questions, Risk?
So what's your process for how do you come up with your lyrics for your songs and that?
Yeah, that's a challenge. I have
Yeah.
to say. I do a couple of things. One is I listen to a lot of conversations, whether conversations like the one we're having through podcasts, or
Yeah.
conversations through TV shows, or recorded, books, to not just read words and how they sound to me, but also hear them say and by other people. And then I write down lines that catch my attention, or word combinations that evoke something to me. It really is also an attitude. Some TV shows, their dialogues are really interesting for the attitude that that they give out, that the character is able to express with the dialogue. So let's, earlier I was mentioning, I don't know if you were online at the time, how I learned from that show Outlander that the human body can last 3 minutes without air, 3 days without food, etc. So what happens there is I don't know that I would have a lyric, but I may stretch that out to say, hey, uh, how long can I last without music? And I'm how long can I last with your music or your song, and make it more of a personal relationship type of situation. I don't think I would be able to do anything like, hey, where can I find the pancake box mix? But if you leave me with that and say, hey, can you write a song around being lost in a supermarket and finding the pancake mix, I might end up with a song, but I don't know that I would release it. But the notion of, hey, how long can I last without music, and writing a song around that I think I might be able to come up with a combination of music and lyrics that I could see people kind of like getting into it, but I don't know right off the bat where I would go exactly. But there is an example of a conversation that triggers the possibility of a lyric.
Okay. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
and you look what you just said. I never thought about it that way. That could actually be a cool title,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
right? I never thought about
Absolutely,
it that
yeah.
way because it sort of has that, overall general statement. It's simple words that mean a lot to people, and who hasn't found themselves in a situation where, hey, wait a minute, I never thought about it that way, and depending on how you set it up, it could be any subject. So there you go. Write this one down as a possible title.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So that's how I work it. But there's a lot of things that just never end up working out. So I don't know if this one would or not, but it has potential in the way I approach lyric writing.
Oh yeah, of
There are
course.
like songs that have like worked that you've tried written out and you've made that you don't like.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So like, and you were saying about like you're not saying that you would release it. I'm guessing from that you've made a bunch of songs. There's some songs that you made and you just didn't think that was that fit.
Yeah, it's on the plus side, there's no shortage of inspiration, I have to
True.
say. But there's you have to make a decision at some point. What do you feel is going to be most appealing, or certainly that you yourself are willing to say, hey, how many times can I play and sing that song, before I start going like, oh, all right, I'm a little tired of this thing, because hopefully, you release music, and you hope that many people will love it and play it, and that you'll, hey, if I were to tour the world and sing, hey, Yesterday by the Beatles, I'll never tire of that, right? I think it's a great song. Now, some people may say, oh, yeah, well, I've heard it enough. Thank you very much. But, it's hard to tell, how some songs will, people will never tire of. People will find that to be always welcome, classics. I mean, obviously, some songs over the years and decades are always welcome to most people's ears at some point or another. They'll go like, oh yeah, I love that song, and that's what I'm hoping I can produce and make available to people, but certainly it's hard to pick them out. I don't have the skill to tell you one song or another which one is going to have that sort of lasting forever appeal that is going to be pleasing to people's ears. So, I make the decision, but some people may one day come to my house and I'll play them stuff that I sort of put on a shelf and
Yeah.
thought maybe not, and they'll say, "Hey, what are you thinking? This is a great song." So who knows?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so if you
Some of the
sorry,
titles made for
go on, Rick.
So tell us some of like your titles of the albums that you've released in that. Like, is there any particular like titles that you've liked, or like what have you like named your albums in that?
Oh, the titles of albums of mine, or any albums
of your
Yeah. Well, I don't have that many, but I like, for instance, the single I released last summer, Fellini's Love Scene, right? And that's based on the director, the Italian director, and even if you don't know his movies, or you've never seen them, or you've heard about them, a love scene in one of Fellini's movies, there's something about that to me suggests a whole load of things that you can think about. Ride the Wave is the most recent album that I released, and that to me carries a whole load of meaning, because it was during the pandemic, and riding the wave of whatever comes at you, just like a surfer rides a wave. There's no control. You either jump on your board, you ride that wave, you crash onto the shore, or you get submerged, and hopefully you come out okay. But it's that notion of not knowing what's going to happen, not having any kind of control over what rolls under you, over you, during the course of your life, or part of your life. So I try to have titles and themes that suggests some at least some thoughts, and hopefully positive thoughts. I like to think that if you can be entertained, that's great. If you can be entertained and also uplifted by music and lyrics, and full albums of songs, then I think that's a great achievement, and that's what I hope to do.
All right, cool. So if you could add anyone to Mount Rushmore, who would it be?
That's amazing. I love your questions. Yeah, I that is cool, because I'm trying to visualize Mount Rushmore, and I would imagine that there is some space left. But let's see. I would say that without a doubt, some musicians deserve a spot. I think it's overly, on the political slash, historical individual. So I would add a musician there for sure. Now, which one, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that is a very, very tough question. From what I read, one of the probe that was sent out, I think 40 years plus ago, in space, that has now passed the edge of the solar system and into deep space, carried music by Johann Bach, among others. I think there might be some Elvis stuff in there. So it could be, if there's a little bit, if there's enough space, I would put Bach, and I would put Elvis Presley.
That's actually those are really good suggestions.
Yes.
Though, I mean, nowadays, I'd love for it to be enough space for a woman to be there, and it represents, way more music than just these two. But it's an example of sort of interesting, music stuff that has been done on Earth. But there's, and hey, look, I think Beyonce should be there. You know, she's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
of course.
so you know, there's no shortage of candidates when it comes to adding musicians to Mount Rushmore. You know, talking about that, you're asking about adding. What about rotating? You know, I mean, can we do like a rotation, a slide thing, right? Maybe not thumbing through the carvings on Mount Rushmore, but is there a way to rotate? And now we can have way more people up there on a rotation basis.
They might be able to do some with a projector if they want.
Yeah, there you go. Right? Because hey, you know, it doesn't have to be carved as long as you can see. Right?
True.
Yeah, I can certainly see that for sure. Only question is how and why, and do they have enough money and funds to make it possible? Well, you just never know, you know.
Well, but hey, there is crowdfunding,
True.
and that may actually surprise all of us as to who ends up being on the rotation. Um, yeah, that's. But you're right. You know, funding is going to be the key, as it always is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you opened a business, what kind of business would it be?
That's a good
Ah,
question.
yeah, I'll tell you one business that would never ever reopen is the music business.
Music.
That is definitely not a business to go into. But music is great. Don't take me wrong. And musicians and artists and singers, they're fantastic people. But the music business is atrocious. As far as businesses, you know, I think the best way to show appreciation and you know, love to people, probably the restaurant business with a bar, with alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So a
optional. You know, not everybody has got to have a drink if they don't want one, but definitely a great restaurant with a bar. That would be the business.
That's a good strategy, actually. I like that.
a lot of
Yeah,
people will come in on like Friday nights just for a drink.
yeah,
Families
yeah,
like
yeah, and some appetizers. You know,
yeah.
whatever. You know, it's if you get a little hungry after having a couple of drinks, why not? But yeah, and great atmosphere, you know, great setting, relax, cool, easy going, you know, music, of course, and conversation, and yeah,
Yep.
definitely. That way, people get to eat, get to drink, and make friends.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the craziest, most outrageous thing you want to achieve?
Guys,
The I would love to find a way to travel faster than the speed of light. Not that we can even travel at the speed of light now, but way faster than the speed of light. You know, if there was a way to make the trip New York, London, New York, Paris in about a nanosecond, that would be fantastic. Because let's face it, we would still spend like 2 3 hours in the airport waiting and through the process, luggage and everything. But you know, in less than a second would be arriving, and then it would be a lot better than spending hours and hours on an airplane when
you might
traveling.
get there someday though. Like no, I'm not saying now, but 10, 20,
Yeah,
30 years.
that'd be great. You know, and let's face it, if we don't travel that fast, you know, or way faster than the speed of light, yeah, we may make it back to the moon, but that's not going to help us much. We may make it to Mars, you know, but what are we going to do when we are there? We have to travel so fast that we can go to another solar system, you know. I mean, not that there is any kind of rush. The, you know, scientists tell us that in 5 billion years, the sun will go supernova, and obviously the Earth will no longer exist. So there's time to, figure out a way to travel somewhere else. But we may mess up the planet a lot sooner than that. So we might find ourselves a bit behind. It's like, where do we go now? So I'd say, yeah, I would focus on traveling way, way faster than we're able to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I would look on population control as well. Like, I think it's, Japan, more and more people in Japan year over year, to the point it will get to the point where Japan is literally going to go extinct, because literally there's so much old people in Japan, and like less and less people are having kids, and I think that's in general with every country,
Yeah,
everything that we face.
it's quite fascinating. It's happening in Europe, in many countries. It's happening in the U.S. There's therefore a greater need for immigration because of working folks that are needed, and then it creates obviously all sorts of changes that people have to adapt to, and it's wild how those population changes are taking place. I think it's great in the sense that we have to get used to living with each other. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, New York City is a great example. Talk about 9 million people around here, or 8 plus whatever it is now, and all sorts of backgrounds, and relatively peaceful considering every person, every people of the planet is represented in New York City, or just about, and it's fine. People get along. It's so it's not like we can't live with each other. It's not the case, but it is a very, very interesting question on how that's going to expand and take place, and how people are going to deal with it.
I will say this: if we want to do certain thing, I think all of us will need to work together.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that is all we have for this episode. It was great having you here, Jay. Catching
Thank
up
you.
on life in music and, well, talking about a lot of other things. That's been quite the interesting episode.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for the amazing questions, and of course, thank you for having me as always.
You're welcome. And until next time, stay tuned for more.